So we have discussed human desires, morality, human dignity, truth, justice, virtues, and if you haven't figured out by now, all of these topics are slowly moving towards the proof and the conclusion of a deity. But what's one thing we haven't discussed yet? Well, that would be scientific evidence. You might thought that this channel was just going to stick with the philosophical, psychological arguments, all that stuff. No, we're going right into the scientific. And I'll be making 3 videos that talk about these points. The first one focusing, this one, on Big Bang Cosmology. The second one focusing on the fine-tuning argument. And the third one finally discussing the origins of life and sort of macroevolution. So, Big Bang Cosmology. Firstly, where does this come from? In the early 1900s, Albert Einstein, I'm sure that most of you have heard of this person, was working on a mathematical model of the universe with relativity. During this time, a Belgian physicist, astronomer, and priest named Father Georges Lemaitre was the first to theorize, using some of Einstein's mathematics in his equations, the theory of an expanding universe, which would later be discovered and technically verified by Edwin Hubble, which would be named Hubble's law. If you're thinking to yourself, why does Hubble sound familiar? It was because there's a telescope named after him. With the notion that the universe is constantly expanding, if we were to put that in retrograde, according to Father Lemaitre, it would make sense that the universe began from a single point, in which he called the hypothesis of the primeval atom. Einstein didn't really like this theory, even though he did confirm that Father Lemaitre's mathematics were all correct. Einstein, however, tried to prove mathematically a stable or steady state universe model, one that does not expand. Because if the universe truly did start from a Big Bang, if the universe is expanding, that would mean it would have had to have started somewhere. It would have had to have had a beginning, which would then imply that it would need something to start it, or a creator. He thought it would be better if the universe was infinite within itself, having no beginning, because if that was the case, the only necessary being for the universe to occur is the universe itself. But Einstein gave up trying to prove a steady-state universe as soon as Hubble made the discovery, affirming Father Lemaitre's work, and that the universe is most definitely expanding. Now, some of you may ask, what is the big deal about Big Bang cosmology? Like, does it require a deity for this model to work, or does it really require a creator? Well, in Big Bang cosmology, space, time, and energy would all have to have a beginning. The creator would thus have to be outside space, time, and energy, anything that it's creating, and also be very big and intelligent in order to design a universe this complex and to be able to create these elements in the first place, which this description of a creator is the traditional view of the Judeo-Christian God. Even Fred Hoyle, an English secular astronomer, said a common sense interpretation of the facts would suggest that a super intellect has monkeyed with the law of physics and chemistry, and that there are no blind forces in the universe. And many other atheistic secular scientists have looked at Big Bang cosmology and admitted that, looking at the facts, common sense dictates the existence of a god, and admits this as a testimony against interest, meaning saying this doesn't help their atheistic case at all. But it's just too obvious to gloss over, and so by not saying it is sort of allowing the scientists to be ignorant. Now, in attempts to disprove that the universe doesn't have a beginning, many scientists have attempted to create alternative models and try to prove it through mathematics, such as Stephen Hawking, who worked on a theoretical math to prove a pre-existing universe, but he never successfully got there. Roger Penrose, a British mathematician, tried to prove an oscillating universe theory where it somehow becomes the cause of another universe that lasts thereafter, so a whole chain erupts. Another theory is one where the universe retracts and crunches in on itself to either make way for a new universe or to destroy itself into a new universe. The evidence currently proves, however, that not only is this not observed, or has never been observed, but it also doesn't work because you have the second law of thermodynamics that states this is impossible. Even apart from Big Bang cosmology, there's not enough gravity to pull everything back in order to commence that crunching process. Robert Spitzer explains why this doesn't work using thermodynamics. The second law states that as matter and energy go through time, entropy always increases. Entropy is disorder, moving from a state from more order to less order. It would be like saying from a glass cup breaking, falling on a wooden surface. The energy is not destroyed. That's part of the first law of thermodynamics. The energy is transferred from the glass into the wood. You could also have energy from the wooden surface go into the pieces of glass and have that energy transfer from the wood to the glass form a complete glass cup. Now, mathematically, both of those scenarios work, but in physics, it doesn't. So that's where the second law of thermodynamics comes in, is where the second law of thermodynamics says that it is possible for a glass to fall, break, and have the energy disperse within the wooden floor. But it does not say that it can bring something that's more chaotic into order using the same formulaic process of that energy. So you could not just take a bunch of the pieces of glass from this glass and the energy from the floor, put it in and complete a full glass, because then that would be leading towards a place of order and not more entropy. So just like it makes no sense for this glass to perform the retrograde of the drop, it makes no sense for the universe to also perform the retrograde of what's happening right now, which is it's expanding. William Lane Craig said that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause, and that cause is in fact the creator of the universe. So, now what? I don't know if you ever thought about the Big Bang or what that actually meant under the circumstances. I'm sure a lot of us were taught that in school, that the universe started with a Big Bang. But even just saying the words "the universe started" is admitting to the fact that there has to be something that started it. Once again, we understand in science that if things begin to exist, they have to have a cause that's outside of themselves. So I'd say for now, just maybe go back through this video, maybe do some extra research on some of the people I mentioned, let it sink in, and allow yourself to ask questions. And if you'd like to know more, some good books I suggest are New Proofs for the Existence of God by Father Robert Spitzer, and also Return of the God Hypothesis by Stephen Meyer. Stay tuned for part 2 when we discuss the fine-tuning argument, and then part 3 when we discuss the origins of life from Darwin's perspective. See you then.